I'll have to admit at times it was very difficult because of the wedge that the woman he was involved with drove between he and I. And also, too, at the same time, I was scared. My name is Robin, and I'm your 17th story. My dad was a critical diabetic, and one of the first reasons he started having in-home care was basically to make sure he ate diabetic healthy meals, take his insulin shots. And one of his caregivers introduced Dad to a woman who ultimately ended up getting thousands of dollars of cash from him before they got married, and yes, they did get married. And through that, his life was in jeopardy. And it wasn't just her, she had a whole bunch of family swirling around, and there were actually drug dealers involved. He would be taken on vacation and basically left in hotels to fend for himself. And eventually he did. He landed up on the floor, and no one, neither the wife nor the relatives were there. And he laid on the floor for the better part of 24 hours. But in reality, that was divine intervention, because that got him to the hospital. This woman and her other cohorts were banned from the facility for 2 weeks because of their attempts to get him to change his will and trusts. And they had to place the facility on lockdown. Through that, I met with my local state senator because I just felt so many gaps in the system. That law enforcement and prosecutors, adult protective services, they just didn't really have the tools that they needed. We worked on legislation to strengthen the penalties against those who financially exploit the elderly. And so that's how I became involved with legislative advocacy here in Richmond. And through that, I was introduced to the folks at the James House, because I consider what my dad and I went through to be domestic violence. You know, the elderly, they don't want to seem like victims. They often are scared of perpetrators. So that's why this crime is widely underreported. It took a few years to get us, you know, back on a really good page. He passed away in 2010, and that was about a year-long hospitalization. And I was able to be with him most of the time. We got so close again, and I can still remember he was in the nursing home, and we would go sit up on the deck and sit in the sun, and those are some of the fondest memories I have of Dad. So it ended up being good.